On what? On Hangouts?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they had a limit.
They do. No 12-hour marathons for us.
It's not. Interesting. Didn't know they had a limit.
I don't think they used to.
Somebody somewhere is abusing it.
Probably. All right. You ready?
I am ready.
Hey, everybody who's video, you may notice that I look different today. Having a little problem with my inputs not being recognized. Happens sometimes. So apologies for that on the video. Audio people won't notice anything, though, so don't tell them. Okay? Here we go.
Quality content thrives through the support of those who benefit from its creation. If you gain value from the Daily Tech News Show, consider joining others like me who provide support. Learn how to help at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, October 12th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Scott Johnson, as he does most Wednesdays. How are you, Scott?
I'm good. I like most Wednesdays because
I can't hear you because I need to do that.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Good. Everything's working out according to plan. But I'm just here to tell you, I like most Wednesdays. I'm here most Wednesdays. Yeah. I like most Wednesdays.
Well, good. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad to have you along. We've got some interesting news to talk about. Nolan Bushnell is back in the news, and we got some top stories to talk about. Amazon launched their rumored Music Unlimited streaming service. The service will cost $9.99 a month. Or if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, it'll only cost you $7.99 a month. So we'll talk a little bit about that. It works across all devices, including the Amazon Echo. And in fact, if you're like, I don't really need it to work on anything but an Echo, and only one Echo, you can choose to pay just $3.99 a month. However you pay for the service, the Echo will have improved search integration with Music Unlimited, letting users ask for new and popular songs by mood, by genre, by decade, or even by lyric, by saying, play the song that goes, and then speaking some of the lyric. The Amazon Music app will now pre-cache recommendations for offline listening, as well as feature artist commentaries on tracks called side-by-sides. Amazon Music Unlimited is live in the United States today and will debut in the UK, Germany, and Austria later this year.
I think this is a fine idea. I'm a little sad as a Prime user that this wasn't rolled in like they often do with Prime, with new services. They don't always have to do that. I don't always expect it, but it's always a nice treat when they do. Certainly the price isn't too bad. I think the thing that piqued my interest the most, though, was the Echo now, potentially, if I want to spend as little as $4 a month, has a much vaster variety of music I can play. And that's been kind of a problem with Prime Music, which is very limited in lots of ways. I mean, it sort of gets the job done in a pinch, but for the most part, I've been Bluetoothing up other services or playing other apps on the device. So that's the one that appeals to me the most. And you could say, well, Scott, for an extra $4, just get it everywhere. But I'm kind of good everywhere else. It's the Echo where I want to kind of have some concentrated love here. So for me,
well, let me ask you, what do you use everywhere else for your music then?
So I'm either headphones in, phone, used to be
service wise.
Yeah, for service wise, used to be Spotify. Now it's Apple Music. I really have been happy with Apple Music.
Got it.
A great deal. And even when it comes to when I'm in the house and using that thing, I'll Bluetooth that up to the Echo and use that there and just sort of remotely control it. Sadly, there's no default Apple app on the Echo, as is probably not surprising to many people, but I don't know. I feel like this is worth it. Even if I've got now 2 music services, it makes sense to me to have the family plan happening on multiple devices for the kids and for me and for Kim, but then have this Echo thing kind of happening in its own little ecosystem. And I think I'm okay with that. 4 is not a lot to ask. It's not actually a lot to ask 8 either, but 4 is enough for me to think that maybe that's a no-brainer.
I think 8's going to potentially confuse a few people, maybe not a lot, when they say, well, wait a minute, I thought I already paid for Amazon Prime, and so now I have to pay extra, but it's not the same, but I guess I get a discount. So that's kind of new for them, saying your Prime membership gets you a discount. Not that they've never done it before, but this is the biggest product they've launched to say you'll still have to pay extra for it. They've done it with things like Amazon Fresh and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think you're one of the use cases for the Amazon Echo, which is you use a music service that doesn't play nice with Amazon, which is essentially anything but Amazon, Spotify, or Pandora.
Mhm.
And so we'll give you a chance to have our Amazon Music Unlimited for cheaper, so you don't have to switch. And then you can get some of the stuff, but it doesn't sync over playlists. It doesn't have all the same options. I'm wondering how many people will really plunk down for that $4.
Well, if you're like me and you're a single Echo home, which we are currently, and that may change. I may want some of these dots or extra Echoes in different rooms or whatever. And whatever they come out with, a next generation solution may be so awesome, I can't wait to do it. Or who knows what Google's going to do with their little air freshener looking thing. But bottom line is, with a single Echo that is used mainly for music when everyone's around for a dinner party or something like that is one of its chief uses in our house. And being able to tell it to play what we want, this is appealing. So I guess I appreciate that they put it in there, that's an option for me. I say that knowing that it's probably not the option most people are going to go with. But one thing I do like, and this bears mentioning, toward the end of what you were talking about, you mentioned this. They seem to be interested in making sure that we not only have what content we're buying at Amazon. This is true, certainly video content, but there's something a little bit extra. So the way that they've integrated IMDb with Amazon Prime is one of my favorite things. And when other services don't have it, I watch HBO Now, or I'm looking at iTunes or some other, Hulu, whatever, and I can't pause and get a bunch of info about who's in the scene, what they've done before, links off to other things, how these two actors are connected, trivia about the scene. Like, I actually miss it and get like trigger finger to find out what's happening in these other apps, and it's not happening. So doing this side by side thing is really cool. Like, I just like that they're being thoughtful about that sort of thing from a content perspective. So an added bonus to maybe going the full $8.
Yeah, I take the long view of this, and this all looks like the kind of confusion and decision making that we must deal with thanks to DRM. If it weren't for DRM, you could buy MP3s legally. You wouldn't have to steal them. You could buy them, store them in a locker, anywhere you want, either in the cloud or at home, stream them wherever you want, on whatever device you want, and you wouldn't have to have all of these different services. But because of DRM, we forced a sort of legal rare scarcity to prop up business models, and now it's making it worse. Now it's, well, I have an Amazon Echo, so maybe I should subscribe to music from Amazon instead of Google or Spotify. Oh, wait, but I might want to get the Google Home, so maybe I should subscribe to music for Google. You can't just buy your music and listen to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we'll never get there again, but we are deep in the nest of working out this business model, which is why we have people also trying to take advantage of the fact that, hey, music industry, you made it so that you can't easily port your music from one place to another without breaking the law. You can get under DRM to MP3s everywhere, but you can't store them in the cloud. They crack down on you, and they crack down on anybody who makes music management software that does that. So therefore, we've got this weird system where we have to buy the approved devices that will play our approved music.
Yeah, it's like having it's ridiculous to think this way, but it's like saying, well, I've got water, I pay for it every month, and I need to decide which cup am I going to drink it out of. That's a bigger cup, but it's also narrower. I like that cup because it washes better, and this cup over here, I like the colors. But man, this is hard to choose between which cup I'm going to drink. And as if somebody is forcing me to go into one of my cup ecosystems to get the same water. That is how it feels sometimes. Well, I've got good news for you, because Pandora Plus is back in the mix, baby. I mean, they kind of never went anywhere, Pandora, but they've got a new logo, and they're launching Pandora Plus on Wednesday. That's today. Pandora Plus costs $4.99 a month and replaces Pandora One. It takes away ads and allows more skips, more replays, and offline listening. A true on-demand streaming service from Pandora launches later this year. Something they also mentioned. Pandora also redesigned its P logo, got rid of the white part in the middle of the P. It's also a little more grungy looking in some of its representations to give it a little bit of an edge, I guess. But while announced earlier, this did kind of stealth in today. Think it's any coincidence that it landed the same day as we heard from Amazon?
Well, Pandora announced they were going to do this a month ago, so Amazon might be trolling them. It might just be coincidence too, but it is interesting to see Pandora, throwing out their announcement, kind of surfing alongside the Amazon announcement, possibly getting drowned by the Amazon announcement, but it does, it's another example of the changing model of business. The big news from Pandora would have been if they were doing a full-on streaming service the way Amazon Music Unlimited is, and they are doing that. They're just not announcing that till later this year.
Yeah, I feel like maybe, I sit here saying, oh, I'll pay $3.99 to do this with my Echo. Maybe I just pay $4.99 and do it on the Echo and get Pandora Plus instead. I realize.
Yeah, that's a fight for Pandora, because you have Pandora on your Amazon Echo, but you can't do as many things with it as you can do with Amazon Music Unlimited for cheaper.
That's correct. So,
just on the Echo.
Yeah, it's like $1 less. So I don't know. What you said earlier about all of this proprietariness for unnecessary business, reasons is kind of starting to wear on me. As much as I'm embracing the new brave streaming music world we live in, and video for that matter, to see all of these tents pop up with all these stupid ideas to kind of make it hard and complicated is a little frustrating.
Well, I'll tell you who's frustrated even more than you are about that is Samsung about the Note 7. Remember, we had mentioned that they had released their earnings projections for the coming quarter and said, hey, that first Note 7 recall, at the time it was the only Note 7 recall, is not going to harm us that much. Well, the second Note 7 recall is. Q3 2016 projected operating profit was reduced 33% from prior guidance. That would represent a year-over-year decrease of 30%, the first decline for Samsung year-over-year in a year. And the 2 years before that, they had been declining all the time. So this was supposed to be the year they turned it around. Overall revenue projection was reduced by 2 trillion won, down 4%. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports that Samsung has not been able to reproduce the Note 7 problem, and they can't figure out what has been causing it. So it's possible, and there's a few other experts in battery technology out there saying maybe it's not the battery itself that's malfunctioning. Obviously, it's the battery that causes the smoking and everything, but maybe there's some other design flaw rather than the battery that's causing this problem. Samsung did confirm to Motherboard that Note 7 phones will not be repaired, they will not be refurbished, they will not be resold, they will be recycled. So you send a Note 7 back to them, it's just going back into the bin, not going back on the sales floor.
Sure, I haven't heard any matter. One thing I haven't heard about that I thought we might hear about is maybe environmental conditions that would cause the battery to act funny. So, for example, if you're testing this in labs in tightly controlled lab conditions in Korea. Is that different than a high altitude city somewhere in North America where one of the phones exploded, or where there's more humidity, or I don't know. Like if they really can't reproduce it yet, it's this rampant. That seems just bananas to me that they haven't even got a clue yet as to what's causing it.
So it could be something in the quick charging. And it could be environmentally related. We don't know. I mean, you're just throwing out ideas that they are probably also throwing out in their brainstorming. Because believe me, they've got a lot of people trying to figure this out. And it is as much as you could throw stones at Samsung and say you were just shoddy, and everybody said you were rushing to market, and that's why you released a shoddy one a second time. My guess is they really didn't want to release a shoddy one the second time and thought they had fixed it by switching suppliers. They thought they had tracked it down to those SDI batteries. And it turns out maybe that wasn't the issue. Maybe there's something else in there that's causing it, and they haven't figured it out yet.
Well, no company wants to just burn money. So I'm with you. I think that it's all in good faith. They're trying to do the best they can. Nobody wants to lose this measure of money. Like, there's a million reasons why it is in their best interest to put out the best possible phone and fix this in the best possible way. And if things are really this mysterious, I mean, this must be the height of frustration for their engineers. Time will tell. Microsoft announced something interesting, though. We're in the world of augmented reality. We're going to talk a little bit about more VR today, even. And their new product, or the product they've been working on for a while that we've all seen glimpses of, HoloLens, that headset will go on sale in Australia, France, Germany, Ireland, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Developers can pre-order the headset starting Wednesday, with shipments expected in late November. You can order a development edition for $3,000. For the commercial suite, that's $5,000, and includes better support, device management, and enterprise features for that higher price. This has been a kit you could get here for the $3,000 and I assume the 5,000 for a while. This represents a broadening of who can get this thing now. Still, they're aiming for that sort of, I don't know, cutting edge. This isn't for just some consumer with a ton of money. In other words, what they're hoping is lots of interesting developers and people who, you know, can take this thing to new places and give them new ideas and really run it through its paces. Not unlike Google Glass back in the day when that thing came out, it was $1,000 a piece or whatever. So very interested to see what happens as this starts to eke out more and more.
Yeah, it is a good sign for HoloLens that they went ahead and expanded to so many markets. It means that Microsoft still believes there's something here. Maybe they're seeing some good development in the United States. They're on track to expand and get this thing into consumers' hands, but they need some more developers to make some more programs for it. I'd be very interested to see if they announce more later this year at one of their conferences about what they've developed and whether they start to take this more, attack it more consumer or more enterprise. They've sort of straddled that line up until now, showing some really interesting enterprise uses for it, the guy fixing pipes and that sort of thing, but also showing games and lots of home uses and educational uses. And I wonder if they're seeing a trend for the better uses there.
I'm not a big giant betting man, but or a betting man at all, really. I'm not a huge gambler, but if I was to gamble on this, I would say they're going to aim it more toward corporate and enterprise use. And the reason I think that, well, we're going to talk a bunch about it in regards to Nolan Bushnell's new project, because they're clearly seeing a different landscape ahead of them than a lot of VR has up to this point. And if I was Microsoft, with my expertise and experience in enterprise as it is, feels like maybe that's the way to go in these early, headier days of augmented VR and, of course, mixed reality. So we'll see.
A team of scientists at Tsinghua University have discovered a way to induce silkworms to produce thread that's 50% stronger than normal silk, and when heated up to 1,050 degrees Celsius, can conduct electricity.
Oh.
The worms were fed graphene or single-walled carbon nanotubes. Either one of those were sprayed over a bed of mulberry leaves. That sounds delicious. The spray consists of 0.2% graphene or carbon nanotubes by weight, so it's a very low concentration. It's believed it could easily be scaled up to industrial manufacture. Team leader Dr. Ying Zhang thinks the resulting silk could be used for things like durable protective fabrics, biodegradable medical implants, eco-friendly wearable electronics, among other things, because you're essentially making silk that can carry a current and is super lightweight and super strong.
Yeah, 50% stronger. I mean, even traditional uses for silk would be shored up by the idea of 50% stronger. What a strange thing to figure out, though. Like, every once in a while, I'm blown away by a science story where somebody figured out if you feed some carbon-based nanotubes to a bunch of worms on their normal meal of mulberries, that the result is, oh my gosh, we have double the strength and conductivity at a certain temperature. I assume we don't have to maintain that temperature to maintain the...
No, the team heated the silk fibers to carbonize the silk protein and then studied their conductivity, presumably after they cooled down.
I mean, that's really interesting, Tom. One day you're going to be wearing a wearable on your arm, potentially, or using a phone, or something is around you is going to be filled with transistors and CPUs and everything else, and they're all going to be connected by a series of little strings pooped out the back of a silkworm.
Yeah. All the silk you wear now is also pooped out the back of a silkworm. Let's not put too fine a point on it, Scott Johnson.
No, it's a good point, but I guess I don't have a lot of silk stuff.
You don't wear a lot of silk stockings or
really.
underwear. Yeah. All right.
But even the idea of like, just, I don't know, just my phone being full of something that came out of a worm is, I don't know, weirdly eco-friendly, but also super weird. Anyway, time will tell.
I love this.
Verizon has sold, or sorry, haven't sold.
Maybe sold is the right word.
Verizon tells Ars Technica, rather, that all operating system and security updates for its version of the Google Pixel phone will come at the same time as Google releases those phones. Google confirms the practice, telling Ars that, quote, OS updates and monthly security patches will be updated on all Pixel devices, Verizon and non-Verizon alike, and that means simultaneously. Also, the Verizon version of the Pixel will be sold carrier unlocked, though we'll have a Go 90, the My Verizon and Verizon Messages apps pre-installed. So you get a little I won't call it junkware, but you get some Verizon flavored apps.
I will. I'll call it junkware.
All right,
I
junkware.
got no
Fine.
problem calling it junkware.
All three can be removed, of course. But I guess that's both good news for Verizon users and for people interested in the Pixel phone on that network. I mean, I know you've talked to us on the show, and it doesn't need to be brought up again, but man, I'm seeing people excited to get their Pixels and sending back their Samsungs. Like personal friends who are like, I'm sending back my Note. I can't do this. I'm waiting for it to explode. And these are people with like replacements before the stop of the replacements. And they're figuring out ways to send them back and get a Pixel on pre-order. So yeah, here they come. Good job, Google.
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of people and even some people in our chat room speculating like, oh, the Note 7 was too thin. That's the problem. Plenty of thin phones not having the problems of the Note 7. Pixel's going to be one of them, but the iPhones are out there and the Mate 8s and this and that. A lot of people, one guy in our chat room just now predicting the death of the high-priced phone, which I don't see how Note 7's exploding brings on the death of the high-priced phone, but even though those may be unconnected, this will be the test of that. How many Pixels can Google sell at this price? Because we've talked about the perception of Google making affordable devices, which they perpetuated with the Nexus phones. The Nexus phones were always very reasonably priced, and these Pixels are priced right up there by Samsung Galaxy S7s and iPhones. So that will be interesting to see. The other piece of this that people are meeting with skepticism is how they just don't believe Verizon will do this. Like the fact that Verizon has said, yes, we will just pass along the updates as Google releases them. And Google says, yes, they will get their OS updates and monthly security patches simultaneously. People are like, no, we won't, because you're a carrier and you never do that. I mean, I personally believe Verizon will do this. Verizon certainly doesn't get in the way of iOS updates. Why would they get in the way of these? But that is just how angry people are with the carriers delaying these Android updates for years and years and years, is they just can't get it in their heads that a carrier could possibly be telling the truth when they say something like this.
Yeah, I guess this is their chance to prove it, and I understand they have to get out in front of it and do a little PR to explain that that's what they plan to do, but it is kind of a sad state of affairs that you have to keep explaining it and that people continue to not believe you. So proof in the pudding. Let's get that pudding out. Let's put some proof in there. Let's get our phones.
Yeah, I want to put it out there for anyone in the audience who has a Verizon plan, gets a Pixel from Verizon, not an unlocked one directly from Google. Report to us. Either way, no matter what happens, the first time there is an Android OS update, whether you get it simultaneously or not. We'd like to hear from you. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. When that happens, you don't have to write me about it tomorrow, because we know it won't happen tomorrow because the Pixel isn't out yet. Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Really interesting announcement from Atari co-founder Nolan Bushnell, who is, I guess, co-founding, although the company existed before he joined, with Jason Crawford, a company called Modal VR. Crawford invented the Modal tech and serves as the company's chief executive officer. But Bushnell believes in this stuff and is out there talking about it, and his name grabs headlines, so it's a good move for them. Essentially, what this is a prototype wireless headset system, so multiple people with 10 millisecond latency, that can be used in areas as large as 900,000 square feet. And what they call the VR fabricator, the thing that sort of coordinates all this, can be networked. So one can cover 900,000 feet. You could use multiple VR fabricators to cover more than 900,000 feet. And you have to wear full body tracking suits, but essentially they just kind of triangulate these standing sensors out on the field, like literally they show it on a baseball field, and they can track you. Now, various people who've tried this say it's still a little glitchy. Sometimes it doesn't perfectly track you, but they've got games like a ping pong game where they add a bunch of cool things to ping pong so that you don't actually play with a ball, but it's like you're playing pong in real life. They also have an example called Mythic Combat. That's the one on the baseball field that shows two people in a fighting game. So even though they're standing on a field, there's like a huge chasm in between them in the game, and they're throwing lightning bolts at each other and laser blasts and holding their hands together to create these huge green or pink electrostatic charges that they toss at each other. I mean, it's basically Tron Deadly Discs, except without discs. And the idea is that they won't be selling this to you as the home user. They will sell it to an arcade. They'll sell it to a film or TV group that wants to use it. They'll sell it to people who want to do rescue training, people who want to do walkthroughs, 3D modeling, theme park design, architecture. And they're also focused on indie developers. They want to get a developer crew working on this. So they're creating an app store. They say that they will soon be sending out beta versions of the Modal VR Developers Kit for you to try and program for. And they want folks to create software that can sell in the App Store that people will want to buy and then buy Modal VR hardware to use.
Yeah, I scoured everything I could in lead up to this conversation about Modal VR and what their plans were, where they came from, how they hooked up with Nolan Bushnell. For those who don't know, I mean, not only founder of and I think this is important, but not only the founder or co-founder of Atari and the brains behind all of that, but also the man and the brain behind the launch of the Chuck E. Cheese pizza kids arcade franchises, which still exist and operate today in many cities. The reason I think that's significant is I feel like this is a very similar model to that. This is him saying, all right, we can make home video game consoles. That worked out well, but not everyone can get one or have one. So why don't we make a place where they come to us? And that's where we'll have some fun. We'll have animatronic bands made of a bunch of animals. We'll have pizza and we'll have arcade games. And hey, we'll have alcohol for the parents, which is totally true, by the way. So you have all of that as a solution to what nobody knew was a business model or a business need. I feel like they're doing the same thing here. And what historically sounds like what started as a 30-minute investment meeting with Nolan Bushnell turned into like a 2.5-hour conversation where he suddenly got very interested in what these guys were doing. And the net result was they're like, well, sure, we could do like everybody else and try to get these into people's homes and on their PCs or on their consoles. But instead, why don't we make something that people would come to? We don't want to be the ones they come to, but we want them to go to the places that buy our equipment, buy into our system or whatever. I think it's a really brilliant idea. I have major problems with some of it, though, and I'll just say a couple of them here. The fidelity on what they have shown as being rendered in the VR space is kind of terrible. It looks really, really bad. Now, I don't know what that means. We're not talking about a super-powered PC. They've got in their example a notebook and some sort of mid-breakout box unit that does a lot of the rendering and stuff. But what they're showing is the opposite of impressive if you compare it to even what PSVR is doing or even Gear VR. It's just not there as far as that's concerned. They're also showing us examples like the Chasm example you showed, where I don't really know what that's about. Like, I get the idea. You're both wearing headsets. You have a distance between each other. Is the Chasm dynamically rendered? Maybe I play too many video games, so this is where my head is. But is it that different depending on where you started out or how big your space was? Is the game literally just hucking stuff at each other and you just dodge it? Because that'll get boring real quick and you'll get tired real quick.
Well, now hold on. Yeah, you're criticizing. I mean, criticizing the fidelity is okay, I think. Sure. Although you do have to give them the fact that this is prototype software, and I'm sure they are hoping that will improve and expect it to improve. But criticizing the gameplay of a demo that's really supposed to show you, like, hey, we can track people on a baseball field as they play in virtual reality, and you're like, yeah, but the game's kind of boring. Like, well, no, that almost says to me that you're convinced that this is awesome because you've already jumped ahead to like, yeah, but I need better games.
Well, here's what we know. That, I mean, part of that, I guess I'm going to give you some credit for that because part of that is true. What we've seen so far in the VR space is really functional, working hardware that accomplishes many of the goals VR sets out to accomplish. And so they're showing us things far beyond this in demos and even in prototype phases than they are now. What I'm saying right now is none of this is anything more than a little bit of film and trickery. Like, they're not really showing anything real with anything I've seen. And I've looked up every video,
just to address that, I mean, there's reporters from TechCrunch and The Verge and places who've tried it and said, yeah, it does actually work. Like I said earlier, it's a little glitchy here and there. But this isn't just a film trick.
Sure.
that they're doing here. Like, these are two people in full bodysuits without cords trailing out of the back of their neck, going out on a baseball field. And when you see the thing that impressed me was they cut back to the baseball field and it's quiet and there's just two guys like flailing away. But then they cut into the game and they're playing that game. They're playing that targeting game. It's basically a shooter.
Well, sort of. They're compositing those actors or whoever they are in this supposed virtual world. I actually just don't buy any of that stuff. And that's
so you're saying you don't believe, because they said this is a real demonstration of the game.
They did, but I don't believe them.
You don't believe it. All right, fair enough.
I think just looking at that stuff, if any of my, I don't know, 30 years of obsessive video game watching or what the world of graphics hardware does and when it does it, something about all that just struck me as hokey. But here's what I'm going to say. That is not, the point of it is not to impress me as an individual to say, ooh, I'm going to get this set up and go to a field and play with my friends. What this is supposed to do is say to a business, yo, you've got this giant warehouse in downtown LA and it's empty, and usually use it in October for like, I don't know, Halloween haunted house stuff, but the rest of the year just is sort of dormant. Why don't you build a business around building essentially a laser tag, but in the future sort of kind of scenario? And in that scenario, you can imagine that a lesser grade fidelity and a lesser grade quality and sort of it works good enough kind of scenario for a get in line, pay $8, be in there for 10 minutes, get out kind of experience. Absolutely 100% think that's what they're doing here. I don't think this is meant for me to look at and go, ooh, look at the detail and the tracking is incredible. I don't think that's what they're aiming for. I think they're aiming for something that is just a little bit more ramshackle, a little bit more thrown together, a little bit more laser tag. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I just don't think that anybody should look at this yet anyway, until we maybe see some more and go, ooh, the future of VR literally lays before us. I think this is a really interesting way for them to leverage enterprise business and parts of the market that aren't even aware that they could use this technology.
So you're saying it is what they say it is.
Yeah.
That's all they've said. That's all they've said is this isn't for your home use. Yeah. This is for entertainment out in the world. It's for arcades. It's for theme parks. And there's some other interesting things that aren't getting as much mention here, like astronaut training, rescue drills, training simulations, physical esports they mentioned, which might start to border on your skepticism there. But mostly they're saying this is exactly what you're saying you think it is.
Kind of. I think that they're selling it that it will be better than it will be. In other words, it is what it's going to be. I guess what I'm saying is there is a coat of paint on this that says, ooh, the most cutting edge forward thinking thing. And I think it's a little bit like Kmart to Target. And it's fine. They're going to they may make a huge splash with this. Nolan Bushnell, it's great to see that guy out investing in something again and getting behind something. I think that's awesome. He's certainly had great successes in the past. I'm just a little skeptical until I can see that thing in actual action, because what they showed on that field, I don't know, man. It's not
fair enough. I think it's fair to be skeptical about this, because what they have had reporters try is ping pong. Right. What they've showed on that field was more impressive to me, but also not as independently verified, although they say this is actually, taken from the actual gameplay. So I'd like to see that too. Don't forget, Bushnell announced in April he signed on to develop 3 mobile games at an Amsterdam studio called Spill Games. So he's been getting back out there and lending his name to things, and we have yet to see any of those things come to fruition.
I love that guy. He's a Utah connection. He comes from here. I want to see great things out of Chuck E. Cheese himself, but is this going to be it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, Look, when you say ping pong, let me make this clear. It was like pong, big, white, square pong, not a room with a rendered table and nice paddles out in front of your hand motions or anything like that. To their credit, though, the one thing I really liked, and this is also what leads me to think this is laser tag writ large, is when they say full body tracking, we're not talking about some sort of like synthetic suit they're in. They're in like kind of a harness. There's like a sensor up here, sensor back here, a couple sensors on the legs. It's almost like football pads style sort of attachments to parts of their body, not some sort of zip up, I'm living in the VR universe sort of suit. So all of that leads me to think that this is headed towards a mall near you.
Yeah. And by the way, folks, if you go look at the TechCrunch article about this, little confusing, because they put a video of Pong gameplay in the article. that has nothing to do with modal VR. That
Right.
is just screenshots of Pong gameplay.
Right.
That is not what happens when you go into modal VR. In fact, you are standing at a table with actual paddles and all of that.
I didn't get that
Yeah.
from the article. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think
I don't know why they did that. They confused the hell out of me too. I'm like, this is what it looks like. That just looks like screen cap of Pong. And then I click through on the video, and you get to just a screen cap of Pong that's not from modal VR.
Yeah, they did other stuff like, hey, remember Discs of Tron?
Yeah,
Here's the scene from Tron Legacy, and
Right. Yeah.
kinda interesting.
Also, just on a related side note, Valve's annual Steam Dev Days are going on, and apparently they were showing off a new controller prototype that does away with the side grips and lets you open your hands completely while you're using it. That's the way the Oculus Touch controllers work as well. So there's some interesting things going on over there.
Mhm.
Let's get to our pick of the day. Haiku.us is the pick of the day. HIKU.us. I wanted to share a product that my wife and family have been using to help solve the issue of shopping lists. We have had this device for about a year and really love it. It's the combination of a small little device that costs $59 and sits on the counter or can be left on the fridge, has a magnet, and allows you to speak to it to add something to a shopping list, or better yet, scan the barcode on the item. The list app then lets you organize by store, aisle, and other ways to make your shopping experience easier. It's great, as we now have our teenagers in the process too, and it's funny to hear add Pop-Tarts coming from the kitchen. The app syncs, so when one of us is at the store, we know what to get. You can also just re-add things easily from the list. It's very flexible. This one has stuck for both my wife and I thought others might like it too. HIKU.us. Now, the interesting thing when you think about it is this is what I use the Amazon Echo for. But if you don't want to spend money on an Amazon Echo, here's something that Charles, thanks again, Charles, for sending this along, has pointed out that you can use that's cheaper and actually does the shopping list thing, if that's all you want, a lot better.
Yeah, it looks all right. They keep holding it up to their face to say it. I keep hoping it just sort of sits in the room and you can say it out loud. Maybe you can. That video is a little misleading if it's not. But it looks like they have to kind of hold it right up next to their head and go, order more Oreos.
Yeah, I don't think you can shout across the room at it like you can with the Echo, but
Cool.
better on the shopping list app side of things, because the Echo's shopping list app just lists everything in the order you said it. Doesn't do any of the bells and whistles.
Well, yeah, plus $59 is a lot less than, what's going to cost to get an Echo. So
send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. A couple emails before we're out of here. Richard J. Straffolino, writer for Daily Tech Headlines, and you'll sometimes hear him hosting like he did this past Monday, said, I don't think it should be understated how valuable the Facebook workplace will be for the workplace because it has a shared UI with Facebook. How often can businesses introduce a new workplace tool that almost all users have familiarity with, if not expertise? I know the name Facebook might not sell to a lot of CEOs for a workplace tool, but I could also see the shared interface making the sales pitch that much easier. One less thing to have to learn. I see Slack in the same position that Twitter is in. Great for power users, super extensible, but imagine introducing it to a business where most of the employees don't regularly use instant messaging. It would appear at first to be an inscrutable mess with arcane commands that aren't immediately apparent, thus leading to either lower buy-in or more intensive training. While enterprise is always a weird beast for consumer companies to break into, I think workplace has a pretty big advantage.
I don't disagree. I read about that when it got announced, and I just thought, oh boy, another one joins the Slack revolution. But then I thought, I don't know, they're kind of uniquely positioned to sort of already be on everyone's device, computer, desktop, everything. Like there's a real chance for it. They didn't, as far as I know, they haven't addressed some of my questions about what does the free service look like? How extensible is that? Can a lot of the things I do like about Slack sort of work over there? So there's a lot of stuff to be answered, but I don't disagree with Richard. I think it's, people tend to do this just because it's Facebook. We go, Facebook, what do they know? And then it turns out they know a lot. So.
And then finally, if you are someone who says, hey, man, I feel a little bad for Samsung. They're taking a big hit on this money. Are we gonna have to lose them? Are they going away? Don't worry. As I've mentioned before, Samsung highly diversified. They have a baseball team, for goodness sake, that they sponsor called the Samsung Lions. And here's another example of how diversified they are. R writes, regarding how diversified Samsung is, when I was in South Korea, the airlines lost one of my bags and I needed to buy underwear at a 7-Eleven. I looked today at who makes it. Show me a pair of Apple undies, people. It's a Samsung brand pair of underwear.
Wow. They really are the I don't know, the Costco of
Made
products
in
over in South
Korea.
Korea.
Yeah.
Also, 7-Elevens have underwear. That's awesome.
In Korea and Japan. Oh yeah. No,
That's
there's
great.
7-Elevens put our 7-Elevens to shame, Scott.
Yeah, another tiny little thing. Samsung owns probably the team that is going to take the World's Championship in League.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the Samsung Galaxy, they're called. I keep making that team's about to explode jokes on the Rally Point show. I'll promise to stop.
Make a note. This team is about to explode.
Yeah, so they've got plenty of good stuff going on over there.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Scott Johnson, for joining us. Anything to tell folks about before we get out of here?
Oh, gosh, not really. There's always something. So people should just follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson. I'm there all the time pontificating various things that'll waste your time. So if you're looking for more of that, come over there. If not, and you want real hard facts about where to get podcasts and where to get artwork and stuff like that, head on over to frogpants.com today.
We survive based on the folks who enjoy this show. If you are enjoying the show, if we have entertained and informed you, we just ask that you try to give us a little support in however you can. It could be leaving a review on iTunes, buying a shirt, whatever. You can find all the different ways to support us at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. And of course, Patreon is our main funding source. Big welcome to brand new patron Jeffrey Kopkak, who just signed up. And thanks to Mark Thomas, who just increased his support. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Brian Brushwood as our guest. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nicely done.
Yeah, it was good. Camera notwithstanding, you looked fine. Everything was fine.
I'd forgotten all about it.
Yep. Worked out good.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've got Showbot going on.
Oh.
Is there another link for it?
Yeah, it's dead on my end too.
Yeah.
Well, it's hanging, but that could be anything.
W. Scottus 1 says, interesting, no discussion today. Yeah, the discussion was modal VR.
Yeah, that was it.
That was the discussion.
That felt
Can
like
you hear me?
Nope.
Showbot.chatroom.net. Yes, we can, Roger. Yes.
So Showbot.tv works for me, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. The top one is Samsung. Get it, Samsung.
Uh-huh.
Bluetooth it up. Single Echo Home. I put my robe and put on my robe and VR hat. Apple Undies. The happiest place in VR. If you build it virtually, they will come. That's kind of what you were alluding to. And it's people. I mean, it's Nolan Bushnell kind of has some experience with this.
Yeah, the Chuck E. Cheese thing is exactly that.
It's really kind of his next iteration of that concept, except without maybe a focus on pizza.
I think that's how they got him in. To be honest, that's how they sold it to him. I don't think that's bad. I think it's good.
Silkier -conductor. Can you hear me now? Good. Samsung and Single Echo Home are at the top still.
Sorry. I need to hit that.
And Showbiz Pizza. Here, if you ever search and you want to know the relationship between Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza,
yeah,
there's a little thing he gives on it.
I put on my robe and VR hat.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
Oh, my VR hat. Oh, Showbiz Pizza's still.
I thought they went under.
No, well, they still have a website, and they own Chuck E. Cheese now. So.
Oh, it could be just the company is called, but the actual brick and mortar.
I think
maybe the company went under, but the stores were sold and still operate.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I've always wondered, and I was kind of right. Like those stores require such high maintenance to keep those attractions running because you're running a mini amusement park.
They have a Twitter account with 15 followers. So that's good.
Wow.
The last update was May 11th and then one on August 2nd. That was sorry for the lack of updates. Been playing too much Pokemon Go. It's going well for them.
Yeah. They don't have anyone assigned to that account, do they?
Nope.
Remember, I remember this. Yeah, I'm wondering if there will be a time where robotics will be cheap enough that you can kind of basically do a very simple form of animatronics with them. So you can do a show still, but you wouldn't necessarily have all the infrastructure that you needed with, like, say, the band. Like, you needed all the various valves and pumps and stuff to operate them.
Oh, you just give the robots actual instruments, and then...
Yeah, it's just like, okay, you're gonna play this, piano, or I guess keyboard. You get like a simple guitar. They can do all that. Or
you just hire robots. That's hilarious. I love that idea.
I mean, Panda Express did that back in the 80s. They hired a robot to deliver food. Remember that?
No,
I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember that at all. Also, it can't have been a real robot. It can't have been autonomous.
There's an ongoing discussion on what constitutes a robot. But here, this is what they had in the 80s. Here.
By the way, Rule 34, right? That applies to Chuck E. Cheese on Google Images.
That's just something that looks like a robot.
Say that again.
All right.
And it didn't. It's a server. It's not. You said delivery. I was thinking like delivery to your house.
No, not delivery, but like serving to your table.
Was it self-directed or remote controlled?
Yes, it's self-directed.
Really? Okay. All right.
I mean, there's 2 robots in UCSF hospital, and they deliver pills to patients
Today.
For the past
not in the 1980s.
No, not in the 80s. They came online.
That's the part I'm having a hard time.
Why? Well, there were robotics in the early 80s, Tom.
Yes, but not that could just wander around a store floor. And I was way disbelieving when I thought you meant they were delivering to your house. So this is a little more believable. But were they like pre-programmed to go to certain tables? Do you press a button at the top? Like, we can't get robots to do this now. That's why.
Let me see. Each Japanese-built robot purportedly cost $20,000, $45,000 in today's dollars, and were prone to dropping things and letting radio interference make them go haywire. They didn't work out. Ooh, look! They sold them to a restaurant in Modesto, California. I'll have to track that restaurant down.
It was called Fisherman's Grotto.
It's
not a grotto. All right, a grotto is a physical feature.
That's where they send old server robots to die. Is Modesto?
I'm tweaking Roger because that's not the name of his dad's restaurant.
One of these days, the robots could be taking care of you at an old folks' home.
All right, Tensor Guy says it wasn't very accurate, but it kind of did what it was programmed to do. I put on my robe and wizard hat.
That would actually be perfect if they could integrate it into what's the Harry Potter universe? What do they call it? Harry Potter World or whatever? Universal.
Harry Potter experience, I think. Isn't it?
Imagine you could just put them on and you could shout out BS Latin words and phrases, and you can have stuff going on.
It sounds great.
Yeah,
it's great.
The old days, they would have committed you somewhere. I'm wondering if things like that will help, like it's therapy sessions for people who experience psychological trauma. Gonna take some bath and some ice cubes.
You're gonna do what?
That's what Tensor Guy said.
No, because he's hot because the HoloVect Kickstarter just launched.
Oh, nice.
Look up HoloVect Kickstarter.
You know what I forgot on the show? I forgot to recommend that headset. You know what? I'll do it for the after show people. Hold on, let me grab it. The box.
Touch the light.
Wait, how do you spell that?
Holovect. HOLOVECT. A Holovect
there it is. I
volumetric
forgot the T.
display.
It's weird if you just leave it off. You leave the T off.
All right. Most people think that Kingston makes nothing but memory and crappy mice, right? Well, I mean, I shouldn't say most people. I don't know who thinks that. I used to think that. But I needed
That's what I used to think.
I wanted a new gaming headset that was light, comfortable, not outrageously expensive. The best stuff out there is like $600. I was like, I don't want to go that far. So the Wirecutter had recommended the HyperX Cloud by Kingston, and I love this thing. And it was only $20, and it sounds amazing, and it feels like nothing's on my head. So people should get it. It's really good.
Right.
Wait, HyperX, the guys that make memory?
Yeah. The free
Kingston.
Put a note in the rundown next time. Next or even Friday. You can recommend it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good idea. I'll do that Friday because it's surprise. I am so shocked by it, how much I like it. I feel like the sound's better than the more expensive ones I've demoed in the past. It doesn't feel like my head's gonna be in a vice the whole time.
You know, I had that issue with one of the Steel series headsets, and the way it clamped on at least my big head, it really was uncomfortable after 30 minutes. My big melon.
Big head, Raj.
Yeah, and the Monsters. I was going to start a band, but some guy named Todd already had one. Dun, dun. Actually, that one guy from the Big Head and the Big Head Todd and the Monsters reminds me of J-Lo.
Big head, Todd, the monster. No, I'm thinking of Toad the Wet Sprocket. Never mind.
Remember when you had bands that could get away with names like that?
Well, Toad the Wet Sprocket comes from a Monty Python.
Yes,
That's what I was about to say about Big Head Todd.
There's stuff like that today. I just can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah. I've got an idea. We'll call ourselves Robe and Wizard Hat.
I mean, well, think of all the bands that are named after pop culture references, like Say Ferris.
Right.
I'm trying to think of like there has to be something based off The Simpsons, right? Don't have a cow or something.
Cowabunga.
Cowabunga. But you know that came along with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too. That's kind of surf lingo, wasn't it? I know I'm not a linguist.
I don't pretend to be a linguist, says Roger.
Linguist.
Cunning in your ways.
Oh, Tom.
Die, Bart, die. I was saying Bart, in German. Eat my shorts. They are a ska band, says Tensor Guy. There you go.
Oh, all right.
Probably. Oh, wait, I didn't read the end of your line. Probably. They probably are.
Maybe. I wonder if there are a bunch of former marching band guys that's like, I really want to keep playing the trumpet, but not in a jazz setting.
Panic at the Disco is a good one for a current one.
Mm-hmm.
The
Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah, that one's all right.
Wait, isn't that like 10 years old?
Yeah, they've been around for a bit, yeah. I don't know if it's 10. But...
How long have they been around? Let's see.
Taylor Hicks.
Wait, what?
Porno for Pyros. That was a good one. Jane's Addiction. Same guy.
There's only one song I remember. That was that one that kept... No, the one where they say we make great pets.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's kind of their one hit, if you can call it a hit.
That's probably their most well-known, yeah.
The one that made it to 120 minutes on MTV.
I just remember laughing at the time thinking, you've named yourself after a theoretical form of pornography designed specifically for people who like to burn things.
Who said theoretical?
Well,
I mean, I know at the time maybe it was more theoretical, but these days, Rule 34 dictates. That's not even the most theoretical there is.
That's true. Puddle of Mud. I remember them. That one still bugs me.
Why?
The.
Just stuttering when they
They
came
might
up.
be giants.
That I like.
I love them. I remember when they used to come on Screensavers and call for help, or Screensavers. John and John.
Hoobastank.
Oh, I hate. I can't say that, but I wasn't fond of their music or their name.
Mott the Hoople.
What the?
Oh, Toad the Wet Sprocket's in here. It is the Knights Who Say Knee sketch over and over. 30 Old Foot of Grunts. What the heck is that? Hooting the Blowfish. That's a good one. Archers of Loaf.
I remember them.
Yeah. Archers of Loaf.
I will make you archers of loaf. Archers of loaf.
I like how they're described as noise rock.
Noise rock, yeah. My grandma would have said they're all noisy. They should
Yeah,
all
it's all noise.
All right. Well, we are all published. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.